Thank you, Janice. Good morning, Conference. Mark Swatker on behalf of the NEC to move motion A30, which deals with our ongoing relationship with Unite. Conference, the trade union movement in Britain, as I pointed out yesterday in my annual report speech, has not generally covered itself in glory. But as we debated last year, increasingly we share with one union, Unite, an implacable opposition to the Tory Lib Dem cuts programme. Our agreement in 2011 states that we both believe that the government, in pursuing an ideologically motivated drive towards the wholesale privatisation of our public services, and our job is to campaign against them. Both our unions are committed to fighting back, and both of our unions recognise the danger of passivity in the trade union movement, of not doing anything while our communities are under an onslaught. Both unions see a need for a fight back and reject the ideology of defeatism and fatalism. So for the last 2 years since we conference agreed a joint statement with Unite, we have been seeking to deepen our relationship and working closely together. And conference, we have begun to see some of the benefits. Closer working in some of the regions and nations in the UK, closer working on town committees and in anti-cuts groups, joint picket lines, closer cooperation and joint living wage campaigns in the private sector, successful joint fringe meetings, including at the TUC and at the Labour Party, the launch of a new trade union-based think tank between us and Unite, the Centre for Labour and Social Studies, and joint campaigning against racism and fascism in the regions. At national level conference, I can assure you that the TUC, our allies in Unite, have argued with us for joint coordinated industrial action and against the role that some of the bigger public sector unions have played in trying to dampen down any opposition. On welfare conference in particular, it is fair to say that PCS and Unite, virtually alone currently in the trade union movement, have a shared understanding of the attack on the welfare state, and we've had really good joint campaigning with them against the changes to the welfare state. Now, conference last year, motion A72, instructed us to see whether or not we could deepen and strengthen the relationship. Inevitably, as a result of that, the question of merger has been raised both by the media and in terms of comments publicly made by Len McCluskey and others. And therefore this motion conference seeks to give us authority on what to do if approached by Unite to seek to strengthen our relationship and open up merger discussions. And I think it's quite clear, conference, that the motion sets out what we believe our attitude should be. Firstly, that we should have authority to explore all options in terms of strengthening our organisation to fight against the cuts that we face. The conference were also clear about this. We are not interested in a union, at merging with anyone else, just to add numbers, to make it a bigger union and just to become a smaller part of a giant union. We are not merging because financially there would be any pressures on PCS to do so. The work that Chris and the NEC have done to stabilise our finances mean we are absolutely confident as a union we are fully sustainable going forward if that is what we choose to do on our own. Conference, what this motion seeks to do is to say that we face a political choice. Out of choice we can decide whether our future is stronger in Unite going forward or separately standing alone as PCS. And that's why we want to ask a few questions about why we think it is worth exploring. And conference, the key to this lies in the reaction of the trade union movement in November the 30th and afterwards in the historic struggle over pensions. Because conference, we all know in our heart of hearts that it was the big public sector unions that sabotaged the onward fight against pensions that left PCS standing alone. That told us that if we could have real, deeper relations with a union that was committed to fighting, it could potentially transform the TUC and trade unionism in Britain. And therefore, conference, we say that this is something we should explore. We believe that a union committed to fighting back across the public and private sector could transform the situation in Britain's trade union movement. We believe that taking joint action in the public sector together with Unite would mean that we would automatically become the second biggest player to Unison in terms of public sector policy. Conference, in finishing, we want to say this on behalf of the NEC. We are rightly proud of the role that PCS has played in the trade union movement in the last 10 years. Any idea that we may decide to merge with Unite or any other union is one we should consider absolutely with caution, and we should be very, very serious about our analysis of whether it is the right thing to do. The conference, we believe, has got to be right to explore that option. We believe with the democratic safeguards in the motion that it would be folly for us not to explore what benefits we could get from creating truly a massive fighting back trade union, and we seek your support for motion 830.
Conference, Jerry McMahon, DWP Glasgow Branch 2, second, motion 830. Conference, this coalition government is one of the most ruthless, class-ridden in living memory. This coalition of millionaires are implementing the policies of their wealthy backers and making sure working people pay for a crisis they did not create. This means we see poverty pay, job cuts, privatisation and attacks on our pension. And of course, the cuts don't just affect the civil service. These greedy, hypocritical vultures are closing schools, hospitals and services that look after the needy and the vulnerable. And add in the attacks on welfare provision, and we have a horrible, toxic mix that is damaging our communities. Conference, the democracy-led National Executive Committee have done an outstanding job defending members, and we have made it clear from the start that these cuts are not necessary and that there is an alternative. At the same time, we have to say that the joint working with Unite has been a huge step forward. It's brilliant to have a union with 1.4 million members working with us, and that has undoubtedly made a number of campaigns more effective. Conference, I think we have to assume that if PCS could merge with Unite with a strong democratic rulebook and a strong campaigning agenda, what a difference that would make. That massive potential could be used to transform the political outlook and use that strength to challenge austerity. And we would have a real chance, Conference, of finally resolving many of the problems that have affected our members for decades. Conference, carrying this motion would not tie us to a merger. All it says that if Unite approaches, we should talk. And as always, Conference and members would make the final based decision. On that basis, I would ask you to support the motion and allow for the opportunity to create a union that would absolutely petrify the Tories. Support the motion.
There's a lot of hands up, and I'm going to try and get as many people as possible into this debate. So, call one speaker, call Martin, Cavanagh, and then I'll call some more in while the debate's going on.
Conference, Colette Smith, West Lancs, West Cheshire, Revenue Branch, to oppose motion 830. My members were, in essence, happy with the majority of the motion. They believe in the sentiments behind it. However, I want you to look at the last paragraph. Conference believes that ultimately the test to be applied to any merger proposals is the extent to which they can assist our members in fighting to defend their jobs, pensions, pay and private service against Tory Lib Dem government's brutal damaging programme. There's no mention of the Labour Party in their conference, and my members are concerned that when affiliates to the Labour Party, we should not be discussing any potential merger. We are an independent union and we should remain such. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin.
Conference, Mark Cavanagh, DPP Wirral, to support motion 830. Conference, this is a hugely important time, not just for PCS and our members, but the entire trade union movement, a critical time for the working class of this country. We've debated already this week, and will continue to do so month on month, week on week, no doubt, the attacks that we are facing and our members and our communities are facing from this corrupt and undemocratic government. Not just the government, but also the Labour Party as well. We've seen councillors in the Labour Party, from the Labour Party imposing cuts, and clearly that is something that we cannot tolerate. But conference, let's get real on this. This is a motion about consideration and discussion of merger with Unite. We've already passed last year a motion that was clear that we should build closer links. And many of you, and if you haven't been, you bloody well should be working side by side with every trade unionist, every activist and community groups who are against this government and against the austerity agenda. Every cut is a cut on our class, is an attack on our class. I am proud of the work that we've done in the North West, especially in Liverpool, where we work and stand on platforms and campaigning side by side with our comrades from Unite and other trade unions as well. All this seeks to do is to open discussions at a critical time for every person in this country about looking to see if we can build and maximise our unity and our strength. Conference, we at the end of the day do have issues as a branch, and our members do, with the potential that a merger with Unite could have. But again, we need to get real. That there are organisational issues, and as the last speaker said, there is the issue, and it will be a thorny one, won't it, of affiliation to the Labour Party. But this isn't saying that we should merge with Unite. This is saying we should open talks with Unite about maximising the strength that we can possibly have in our trade union movement. Conference, we will get to the bottom of every detail that we have to do, because we don't need to go cap in hand with any trade union, because our union leadership has ensured that we more than punch our weight in the TUC movement already. I am proud of PCS. I'm proud of the activity that we have taken forward, and we can certainly stand shoulder to shoulder and side by side with any organisation in this particular country. But it is a critical time. We would be mad as a trade union not to consider every possibility to look at coordination. We dare for action. Every time we have a debate about industrial action, people get up to the rostrum and say we need to maximise coordination, we need to maximise coordination of campaigns. Wouldn't we look bloody stupid then if we actually refused to talk with a union that is on the platform with us, that is standing side by side with us, and is taking on all political parties who are the enemy of the working class? I support.
Thanks, Martin.
Conference President, Delegates Dennis Robertson, EFRA Group, Reading Branch, mandated to oppose motion A30. Conference, we're all aware of the present economic climate that, through no fault of our own, we find ourselves in. Money for individuals, companies and even our union is extremely tight. The fact that we as a union are investigating a merger with another union may benefit both our union and our future sibling union needs to look at an informal way. Conference, we appreciate that if the merger between PCS and Unite went ahead, it would bring together the two biggest unions and give us untold strength in bargaining powers and consultation meetings. But conference, will the union be fairly diverse to the roles that PCS activists cover? We are a civil service union that covers government workers who work from the DWP to Ministry of Justice, DEFRA to the Land Registry, and lots of other departments that are vital to running any government. Unite, on the other hand, is a larger union than ourselves that covers the industrial sector, covering members from the aeronautics to electrical engineers, dock and rail workers to factory workers. Can one merged union be able to cover concerns both of an industrial nature as well as a government sector nature without prejudice to one sector? Conference, I ask you to oppose this motion and look at motion A33, which highlights the possibility and benefits of joining fellow civil service unions that have the same bargaining area as us. Conference, please oppose this motion.
Thanks very much. Take your text. Is it in favour of any of those? Yeah? Just a non-sexual vote.
President of the Conference, Lawrence Dunn, on the Home Office Disclosure and Bargain Service Branch, speaking in support of motion A30. Conference, let me just start by just drawing a parallel about what this motion is about and what it isn't about. This motion isn't asking Conference to endorse a merger with Unite. Delegates and people of my mandate meeting and members of my mandate meeting were clear that they had reservations about whether merging with Unite was the right thing for the union to do. But what my members were absolutely clear on is it's absolutely right for us to be having a discussion on anything that we might think might help our members to fight off a vicious government and a vicious employer and make their working lives a little bit better in the future. And I think we owe it to members to have that discussion over the next 12 months. Now, what I'd say to people who've got reservations over this motion, and some legitimate reservations, is support the motion, but also support motion A2, which lists a number of principles and demands which, if conference endorses that motion, will dictate the NEC strategy in those discussions with Unite, and it touches on political independence, it touches on protecting PCS's democratic structures. But I think actually the key point in motion 830 is the last point, and that's one that everyone has got to focus in on, and that is that conference believes that ultimately the test to be applied to any merger proposals is the extent to which they can assist our members in fighting to defend their jobs, pensions, pay and public services against the Tory Lib Dem government's brutal and damaging cuts. That is absolutely a test that we can apply at next year's conference and during any ballot period. And conference, I think we owe it to our members, in light of that statement to the end of the motion, anything that can help us assist our members on those things, we've got a duty to support that discussion. So conference, put your reservations to one side for a second, allow those discussions to take place, and then next year we can assess whether those discussions have met that test and have a comradely debate on whether we actually want to go through with any potential merger. Conference, support the motion.
Thanks, Alan. I'll take Dave next, and I'll take Rachel.
Thank you, President. Conference, Dave Vincent, MOJ, Greater Manchester, to absolutely oppose motion 830. The conference, if you hear, those of you who were here last year may remember my little exchange with Mark, where we talked about a closer relationship with Unite, and I absolutely put it to him, as everybody thought, this is really about a merger, and Mark denied that it was about a merger. 1 year later, it's about a merger, but only if they approach us. There's curiously shy word in that, isn't it? Only if they approach us. We're supposed to be so in favour of a merger with Unite. Why as a branch are we against the merger with Unite? After all, Len McCluskey talks about United Action, talks about calling for a general strike, but no action now. McCluskey talks about reducing Unite's enormous donations to the Labour Party if they don't support workers in struggle. So he talks about it, but he's not cut a penny to the Labour Party. McCluskey talks about getting loads of Unite activists to join the Labour Party to pull it left. Well, he has done that one. He is urging everybody to go into the Labour Party and pull it left. So it's as clear as day, conference, that McCluskey is not about leading a fighting union. It's about putting Labour's electoral chances first in 2015 over leading any fight back now. And that's a problem. And it's a price far too high for PCS to pay. This is incredible that neither Mark nor Jerry said anything about Unite being in the Labour Party, and that everything that Unite does is to get Labour elected in 2015. It's absolutely shameful not to mention that. PCS, and Mark has said it many a time, and that's what I'm proud to be in PCS, is we're one of the few unions not affiliated to the Labour Party, and that is why we're one of the few unions that are serious about fighting back and calling for unity. We talk about action and we deliver it, all the other unions, particularly Labour affiliated, and that is why there was a sellout on November the 30th. 2 million workers supported that dispute. She should have called 4 million, but they thought it had. They were surprised at the support for it and decided to run for cover so it wouldn't spoil Labour's election chance. And McCluskey called his election early in order not to be a distraction for the Labour Party in 2015. And why the SP supported McCluskey rather than Jerry Hitt, rank and file on a platform very similar to that when he started. Why? Well, now we can see, can't we? It's all about a merger. Conference will be told that it'll be all transparent, to be able to get a chance to debate it. In reality, you know full well it's about a merger, and if there's an awkward question about being in the Labour Party, some people are prepared to say that's a price worth paying for a merger, and you know that. So this is the real, we're not going to get a real choice. It'll be for the merger, not perfect, but you know, for the gains to be had out of it. Absolutely not. We cannot be in a union fundamentally opposed to us about the issue of the Labour Party. They're not fighting because of their affiliations to the Labour Party. We are. It's a price too high to pay. Absolutely opposed, conference.
Rachel Hinscote, DWP Essex, asking you to oppose talking to Unite at this time around merger. We fought long and hard to have a union that listens and consults its members. Yes, Unite campaign, yes, we can have joint campaigns with them, but I feel it's necessary to bring something to conference's attention. Our union talks to its members, as I've said. I'm not sure Unite does this. As President of Southend Trades Council recently, I heard a report from the Unite secretary. They had received that day a letter from Unite telling him that his branch was to close. Their funds were frozen, and he would be written to in the future to tell him what was happening to his hundreds of members. He was absolutely devastated. He's been a Unite activist for over 30 years. This was the first he knew of branch reorganisation in our area. It's not just happened to one branch. I've been at meetings and I know that hundreds of Unite branches are being closed without negotiation in advance. They knew that there was a branch reorganisation happening, but they were not consulted, they were not spoken to. They received letters in the post. Hundreds of members have now not got branches. We do not want to be part of a union that decides where we have our branches. Yes, we have workplace branches. Yes, you have employer-based branches. But where that's not possible, because you have one or two members in a factory over here, one or two over there, one over there, you have an area branch. And that's what Unite had. But they are destroying that branch structure. Their activists will no longer have anywhere to go. I ask you on this occasion, oppose talks with that union. We must have a membership-led union. A union, yes, that campaigns, but campaigns by talking to its activists and not destroying them. Oppose the motion.
Lee Vernon, DWP HQ branch, speaking in support of the motion. Conference, I'm definitely preaching to the choir when it comes to terms of saying that we're in the fight of our lives at the moment. It's not just about fighting about our pay in terms of conditions, but it's also about the future of there being a civil service in the public sector. And in this fight, as previous motions put out, we have to be considering every possible option in terms of what we do about fighting back. And we need to be thinking every single tactic and making sure we're considering and looking at everything there is. And this motion isn't about committing ourselves to any kind of merger, but it's about talking about an open and kind of having an open process to kind of say, if we were approached in the future, what we're going to do about it. And if we are talking about 2 years from now, the government comes back harder, is it right to say now, right, without any deal in front of us, we're going to outlaw it, we're not going to do anything about it. When in 2 years' time, we can say, Unite come to us and say, we've got an action plan, we've got something to go forward with, and then we can discuss it further then. And this motion is entirely about setting up a terms of reference about how we do that, and kind of saying quite clearly that we have concerns. I think we'd all be lying if we say we're not concerned about rate of pay, we're not concerned about being swallowed up by a big union. But I think the whole point of this motion is setting that out now very clearly and saying, if you come to us and say you're going to be involved in rate of pay, you're going to have anything to say, then this conference and our members will shoot it down in 20 seconds flat. And that is very much what we're saying. But I think we also have to consider bigger possibilities, because this is one of the biggest unions in the country. This is a union that is launching Unite Community, getting involved unemployed activists and going out to young people. This is a union that has openly called for a general strike on the General Council. A union that is fighting key battles across the country on issues, for example, London bus workers when they called about the strike over Olympic pay dispute, around the Bethesda dispute when they called out construction workers and electricians and fought a war around that. And they're currently fighting a kind of war against employers, both public and private, about blacklisting. And the organising and recruitment potential within this union, any kind of merger, would be absolutely fantastic. And to kind of call that out now, without any kind of proposals, without any kind of actual deal in place, I think it's it should have come way too early. Which motion sets out, saying quite clearly that if they come to us and say something, these are what we're going to be saying from the beginning. These are our concerns. Don't take our concerns into account, and we are not going to merge. I think everyone agrees with me, we have got concerns. But we definitely shouldn't be ruling this out before anyone has come to us yet. We shouldn't be talking about the hypotheticals and the possibilities of what any merger will be. And quite clearly, we're talking about something that isn't in place yet. So I urge you to support the motion, to keep all our options open. And if this government is going to be coming for us, and coming for us again and again and again until we defeat it, and this is something to put on the table, and in case So if they do come to us, it's so brilliant, we can take it forward and we can fight, but if not, we can shoot it down. And this motion does. Let's just do that. Thank you, Conference.
Thank you. Steve.
Thank you, President. Comrade Steve Ryan, North Wales Revenue and Customs, to vote against or urge you to oppose this motion. And I'm doing that because I was heavily mandated by my members to do so. Conference, Matt Savotka yesterday in his opening speech made the best case that I have seen out of all the speeches we've heard so far for staying as we are and not actually merging. Because Matt pointed out yesterday that we are the best campaigning fighting union on the political scene at the moment. He pointed out that it was us, Conrad Knight and Unison, that have given the lead in the fight back against the attacks on us, going back, by the way, to the Labour Party. Let's not forget it was them that started the cuts in the first place. We have got, definitely, some of the best reps that we've got can see anywhere. Our organisation is fabulous and it's a privilege to work with you all out there. But you know what? My members are really concerned because they are really, really proud of this union. And coming from an ex-revenue background, we spent 30 years trying to create a union just like this one. It was hard work, but we got there. And we're proud of what we've been doing. And we have got a massive fear that if we merge with Unite, all that will be lost. There's a paragraph here that says it is possible that a merged union could create a new powerful force for fighting back. It could. But the fear that my members have, and I believe it's right, will be that in fact we will just simply be subsumed. For all the things that have been said over the past half hour. A Jerry Hicks-led union, Unite, might have been a different kettle of fish. But therein lies the clue to this. Jerry Hicks didn't win. McCluskey won. And McCluskey is still wedded to Labour. He is still wedded to not doing all the things that he says. But more to the point, in a great big union that this would become, if we did it, the kind of things that we like to do, we work with UK-owned cut, we work with everybody out there, we are not affiliated to any political party, so we can do what we will. That will be subsumed. And what we could end up with, comrades, is not a union that frightens the Tories, but a sigh of relief from the Tories and the Condems as they realise that all our power of the working class out there that we extend every day and is starting to attract attention from members of other unions will be gone. And I think that will be a terrible, terrible shame. Comrades, I know that there will be a number of people who vote there, but I really need you to think about where this takes us, because I believe what this would do is to stop that fight back. And I'll say this, and like Tom, we're saying, or people have said, that we've been working with Unite. Come to North Wales, where Unite full-time officials have harassed and around us, have told members not to come on lines with us. They have never been out there. We have some rank and file members come, but their attitude is disgraceful, and that has put a lot of people off as well. Comrades, rather than distracting ourselves over a merger, because they want to red light, don't support this motion, carry on fighting and campaigning, and drag anybody else with it.
Candy O'Gwyn National Gallery branch, and I'm supporting this motion with the tests that are also laid out in A31. But I think if we're saying that we have talks with Unite, I don't think we should be saying that we do that putting our reservations aside. I think we should do that putting our reservations absolutely up front and crystal clear. And whilst it's important to look at the similarities between our unions, I also think we have to be absolutely clear about what the differences are before we have those talks, and so we don't go into them blindly. And as people have said, the differences between them are, the key difference is our attitude to the Labour Party and independence from them. Because the reason why we're proud of our union is because we're leading the way in fighting back now rather than waiting for the next election, which is the strategy of so much of the rest of the trade union movement. And obviously that, and we have to say it, that is actually key to the future of this union, not any possible talks or any possible merger. And I think if you look at what Unite is doing, it's fantastic they've talked about a general strike. It's fantastic that the People's Assembly on June the 22nd, that Len McCluskey and Unite have been promoting. We should all be there, the work that they're doing with Owen Jones and others, and they are talking about calling initiatives after that, about the NHS and other initiatives. But we also know that the key moments, the pension strike before and the action now, actually it is only the left and Unite that are pushing in the health sector for strikes now. And so, I mean, I think that we should take heart from the vote for Jerry Hicks, because actually there are 80,000 people in Unite who voted for Jerry Hicks. That's 36% of the members who voted against a left-wing version of Wait for Labour. And so if we go into these talks, I think that we should take heart from the fact that actually ordinary members in other unions as well, apart from Unite, are looking for a lead now, and we should be talking to Jerry Hicks as well as Len McCluskey as we look towards how the unions can work better together in the future.
Thanks, Candy.
Clara Pela from the National Museums Liverpool. I'll speak briefly to offer qualified support. Clearly, Unite is a mighty beast and a merger is an attractive option. In fact, Unite and their community branches are already welcoming PCS members when they lose their jobs, because when you lose your job, you lose your PCS membership. We're not perfect either. But the biggest obstacle will be the affiliation to the Labour Party and the political strategy to reclaim that party. At the moment, too many Unite members are buzzing inside the Labour Party when they should be working with us to organise a general strike. Most Labour local councillors, who are also Unite members, are currently implementing the budget cuts. What's going on? There are a few exceptions, like Kevin Bennett, councillor in Warrington, voted against the cuts, against his own party. What happened? He's been suspended indefinitely. Anyway, the motion only commits to talks, and there is nothing wrong with that, so I'll ask you to support with those comments. And,
Thank you, conference. Dale Sharp, the Department of Energy and Climate Change. This is actually my first conference and therefore the first time I've spoken, so it's with some trepidation that I speak against the motion put forward by our General Secretary, but there we are. I am mandated to oppose this motion for several reasons, and I'm going to be brief because I can see so many members, so many delegates wish to speak on this, and it's such a vital debate that I think we need as many voices as possible to speak on this motion. Unite has, I believe, more than 2 million or around 2 million members. As we heard earlier, we have 264,000. We're the 5th biggest union in this country. If the 5th biggest union in the country can't stand on its own 2 feet, then I don't know who can. We must stand strong and we must stand tall, and we must tell it like it is, conference. This will not be a merger, this will be a takeover. Many speakers have come up here to oppose the motion based on the fact that Unite is politically affiliated to the Labour Party. As we all know, we are not affiliated to any political party. We stand independent of party politics. And for me, this is vitally important given the fundamental principle of the civil service, that we are permanent and impartial. These people are not playing at the moment. Francis Maude and his mob are not playing this time. They are already talking about outsourcing our work to their mates in think tanks. This, I fear, will make this more likely, as they will not trust us to do our job properly. Every day, our members put personal political views to one side and professionally go to work to serve the country and do the job that they are paid for by the taxpayer to do. Merging with Unite will make this harder, and I don't accept that it will have that we can somehow get round the fact that Unite are politically affiliated to the Labour Party. How will the Labour Party feel if a member or a section of one of their biggest unions has its own political fund and potentially funds other party candidates? I don't think that would work, conference. So, in summary, I think we should oppose this motion and we should look to actually maybe, dare I say, have some hostile takeovers of our own with other civil service unions and become one big, united civil service union that's not that's not tied up to any political party and that can stand on its own 2 feet. Opposed motion A30.
Dave Bartlett, South Wales, MOJ, speaking in favour of Resolution A30, and by virtue of the dialectical process, therefore I am not here speaking in favour of merger with Unite. But then, Conference, neither is the resolution. I say this because I have spoken to delegates who somehow fear that merger is somehow a done and dusted deal. Conference, read clearly the remit in this resolution. It becomes obvious it is anything but a done deal. And I know too there are many delegates in this hall who have real, genuine concerns regarding any possible merger. They are indeed a reflection of the healthy and democratic accountability which, quite frankly, is almost unique to this union. The issues of lay-led democracy, workplace organisation, equalities, the list goes on and on. All of us want to jealously guard our instinct for strategic perspective and combat, which quite frankly has made us the envy of activists throughout the trade union movement. Conference, these are CPS brands. They are more than that, they are the DNA which makes up this particular union. And therefore it is natural that we fear the possibility we could be sucked into and swamped by a union which works under different conditions, has a different culture, and of course includes the vexed question of political representation. These concerns are real. They are more than real, they are positive, and I, for one, actually share in many of them. Therefore, what is the point? What is the remit of Resolution A30? Well, many years ago at the Battle of Waterloo, one of Wellington's generals turned round to him and said, "Here comes Napoleon coming on in the same old way." And Wellington replied, "Yes, and we will take them on in the same old way." In other words, Conference, even a union as strategically as astute as ourselves, we must look even to the tried and tested means that have made this union competent. We have to review everything even we stand for in order to keep ahead of the game. And as Mark Sawatka himself said yesterday, we are living in rapidly changing times, and quite frankly, Conference, we would make a grave mistake if we fail to support this resolution, and in doing so we threw the baby out with the bathwater. What this resolution asks is to build, what this resolution asks is to build on the foundations laid down in May 72, and we come back to members. Conference, we're not asking to develop the new weapon that we need, we're asking for the means to research it, to see if it works. Thank you.
Well, there are other hands up, but we have given over half an hour so far for this, and I think it's been a balanced debate with pros and cons, and there are other motions in this section that it is important we try and reach. So, on that basis, I'm going to move to the vote and ask Mark to give his right reply.
Thanks, Janice. President Conference, Mark Sawatka on behalf of the NEC exercises right to reply. And that's been an absolutely excellent debate. The Conference, I think we have to ask ourselves a few questions when you decide how to cast your vote. First of all, does this motion mean there is a merger with Unite? No. Does defeat of the motion mean that if they approach us and want to have those talks, we won't be able to have them? Yes. We are seeking authority to have that conversation, and the NEC believes it would be completely wrong to rule that out as an option. All of the concerns raised by delegates, and I agree absolutely they can be, are not ones you put to one side, they're the ones you have to have out. I can tell you now on behalf of the NEC that if the price paid for merger was the PCS became an affiliated union to Labour and everybody had to join the affiliated political fund, we would not do it. There will have to be a discussion about how we can keep in defending political voice in a union like that. We may not resolve it, but we may resolve it. Other unions have managed to solve that problem when they have decided to merge. And therefore, conference, the real question we ask ourselves is this. Steve Ryan said, we are the best and we should stay on our own. And that's really what this motion is about. Because yes, we are the best. But yesterday we faced up to the realities of the difficulty on our own of defeating the government's attacks on our members, their communities and their families. We saw after November the 30th, no matter how progressive the role we played, if we were a lone voice, we were not able to get other people to join us. Conference, I think we can confidently say that if we were in a union with Unite, with 1.8 million members, with 500,000 members in the public sector, regardless of what Unison or any of the other unions had done, we could have fought on that pensions battle and potentially could have won. And that is the key question we ask. The world is changing. It is no longer good enough to just think of ourselves in terms of the civil service. We want to think about how can we challenge and defeat this government and any Labour government that attacks our members in the way that the last one did or the way that this current government is. Conference, this is about lifting our heads and looking at the future. A future in a rapidly changing world. I know what I would rather do. I'd rather examine all the options to create a union that can defeat the government and stand up for its members. The alternative is that we soldier on as our own, we rule that out, and we just hope that other unions can be convinced to join us. I know what I would rather do in a situation like this. It's explore all the options, have the honest conversation, and merge if it creates a truly fighting, democratic force for change. But if it doesn't create that, we would not want to pursue it. Give us the authority to explore those options, Conference.
Thanks very much. We'll move to the vote on motion A30. All those in favour? Those against? Can you ring the bell, please? Okay, can the stewards close the doors then? Just for maybe some first time, while the tellers are getting in their places, if you've not been to conference participate in a card vote before, this will be card vote number 1, and then your packs. Once the tellers are in their places and we move to the vote, then you pass your vote along to the box that the tellers have, whether you're in favour, against, or you wish to abstain. And I'll let you know when that is ready to happen. Once tellers in their place, no one other than tellers should be standing at this point, so can everyone else take their seats? How are we getting on, John? Are you ready? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, conference, please cast your vote in relation to motion A30.
Well, I'm sure Rachel will be wanting to see it as well.